When a modern, nuclear-armed government moves its military based on ancient rumors, it's worth asking what they know that we don't. In 1976, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ordered a massive, state-sanctioned excavation during a period of national emergency. The objective wasn't a mineral deposit or a new dam, it was a legendary hoard of gold. The Indian Army's 37th Engineers Corps spent 5 months digging into the foundations of Jaigarh Fort, operating on historical leads that suggested a fortune had been buried there centuries ago. The operation was so high-profile that it sparked a diplomatic dispute. Pakistan's Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto filed an official claim, demanding that his country receive a portion of the unrecovered wealth based on pre-partition agreements. The government eventually declared the mission over, reporting a find of only 230 kilograms of silver. Yet, decades later, local residents still maintain that the army found much more, and that a significant portion of the king's hoard remains beneath the stone. In these forts, ancient myths remain potent enough to mobilize armored divisions and dictate the correspondence between heads of state. Centuries of conquest allowed Indian dynasties to accumulate massive physical wealth, but protecting it from rival empires required more than just stone walls. They needed a security system that could survive long after the guards had died. The most successful implementation of this is found at the Padmanabhaswamy Temple in Kerala. This chart shows the scale of the wealth discovered in the temple's hidden chambers. At 1 lakh crore rupees, roughly $22 billion, this single site holds more wealth than the total annual production of several small modern nations. One specific vault, marked with a serpent motif, remains unopened. Despite oversight from the Supreme Court, the fear that breaching the door would trigger a catastrophe has been enough to halt modern researchers in their tracks. These curses function as an enduring psychological barrier. By attaching a high spiritual cost to a physical theft, ancient rulers ensured that even the most powerful modern institutions would hesitate to touch the gold. In other cases, the legend is used to explain a total societal collapse. Kuldara was a prosperous village until its entire population of 800 people abandoned their homes overnight. The story told to tourists is one of a minister's lust and a final departing curse that rendered the soil uninhabitable. This map highlights a more concrete cause. The Kakni River, the community's primary lifeblood, was actively receding and disappearing into the desert at the time of the exodus. Historical records indicate the drought was paired with predatory taxation. The residents didn't leave because of magic. They left because their economic environment had become unviable. You see the same dynamic at Bangar, where signs from the Archaeological Survey of India strictly forbid entry after sunset, citing the site's reputation for supernatural activity. These legends often survive because they package a complicated historical reality, like environmental collapse or failed governance, into a single memorable warning. At Chittorgarh, the myths are built on a history of mass violence rather than economic failure. In 1303, Sultan Alauddin Khalji besieged this fort. Historical accounts suggest his obsession with the local queen, Rani Padmini, drove the invasion. When defeat became certain, 700 women in the fort chose self-immolation in a mass ritual called Jauhar to avoid being captured as spoils of war. Today, visitors claim that the Jauhar Kund echoes with the screams of those victims. These claims suggest that 7 centuries later, the community relies on the language of the supernatural to process the magnitude of that loss. When we examine the snake doors of Kerala or the ghosts of Kuldara, we aren't looking at magic. We are looking at human ingenuity. Ancient rulers recognized that a perceived curse was more cost-effective than a standing army. They designed monuments where the fear of the site did the work of a garrison. The value of these sites is found in the survival strategies they've preserved. The myths have acted as a shell, protecting the history of how these communities negotiated drought, taxation, and war. Some mysteries persist because the original security system is still working. These legends continue to keep the public at a distance, ensuring that the history